Okay, guys, so it's already 7:05. Please make sure that you have your cameras on in order to start with today's class. Okay, guys, thank you. Okay, guys. So yesterday we started working on the speaking section, and more specifically, we said that there are how many questions in the speaking section?
3.
3 questions in the speaking section, you sure?
There are 4 questions.
Questions, exactly. And you have independent and integrated types of questions, right? In the independent ones, you just have to talk about yourself, your own ideas. And in the integrated ones, you're going to have to summarize something. Right now, we're working on the first, which is the independent question. And we said that basically for this task, it was pretty easy. They will give you a question where they will ask you to give your opinion about something familiar. Most of the time, you have 2 or 3 choices. What you have to do is choose one of the options, and then you need to explain that option, why you chose that option, right? Remember that for this question, you had, after you hear the question, 15 seconds to prepare your response, to analyze, to think, to come up with ideas, and you needed to answer the question in 3 for 45 seconds, right? That's what we said. We also saw how it was on your screen. Okay, let's skip these parts. We also took a look at the topics that you have. Most of them were everyday topics that you could have in an everyday conversation. And I was saying yesterday, I was telling you guys that I was gonna send you a vocabulary list, right? So that you get familiarized with some words and some phrases or expressions that are related to the topics you find in this question. So let's use this time to send you guys that vocabulary. Okay.
Teacher, sorry, I have a question for you. Are you going to share us the PPTs?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. By Gmail or by a platform?
I will send you the link right now.
Okay, that's okay.
Sorry, I don't know why so much. Okay, guys. Well, in the meantime, back there. So that's what we were saying, right? Those are the topics that you get in this type of question. Okay. Now we also took a look at some sample responses, right? And we took a time to analyze them to see what the person was doing right, to see the structure that they were using when they were answering to see the types of examples they give, to see the vocabulary they use, the connectors they use, and also we were able to see how the speakers basically articulated everything, right? And the intonation and everything else. So that was a really good exercise. Way to. But now let's see the actual thing. So we're going to work on an example here. Rennie, could you please read the question we have on my screen?
Okay, I'm gonna read. Some people like to study in public places where there are other people around. Others prefer to study in places where there are few or no people around. Which kind of place do you prefer? Explain why.
Okay. Thanks, Rennie. So as you can see, this is the type of question. This is one of the types of questions that you get. You know, some people like this, some people like that. So let's see. First of all, remember that after you hear the question, so after Rennie read it for us, you will have 15 seconds to prepare, right? So what are you supposed to do during these 15 seconds? It depends. It depends on your needs. I'm sorry, Rennie?
Escúchame, estoy en clases ahorita porque como...
Okay. Please, I'm going to ask you guys to turn your mics off if you guys are not speaking.
Sorry, teacher, sorry.
No problem. So during these 15 seconds, the first thing that you're going to do is obviously you will think about what your response will be. So you need to answer this question in your mind. You need to see what side you're going to choose, what your opinion will be. And if you have enough time, you need to think of reasons and examples to support that opinion, right? Now, I recommend that you guys don't use that much time to decide an option because honestly, most of the time you can have reasons or you can have support for both of the options. So it doesn't really matter which option you choose. So you shouldn't be spending more than 3 seconds in deciding what your opinion is. You don't have to think this through. You know, it just has to be a quick decision because it doesn't really matter what option you choose. You will always have reasons to support that. So for example, let's say that we choose option number 1 that says some people like to study in public places where there are other people around. So let's say that we prefer to study in public places, okay? Let's say that that's our opinion, that's our preference. We like better studying in public places. So if that would be the opinion we had, that would be our preference. Can you guys think of one reason why it would be better to study in a public place? Come on, guys.
I think it's a good idea study in public place because you can concentrate better.
Okay. So Gamaliel says that in public places you can concentrate better. Okay, that's good. And why can you concentrate better? What's the difference between public places or places where there are like no people there?
It's easier lose the concentrate. For example, in our house, because maybe I stay in a comfortable place. For example, I study. I am studying, but now I have hungry. I will to go the kitchen. It is easier lose the concentration. Because in public place is different because it is easier keep the focus in your work, in your study, your lecture, your book. It's similar to the office. In the office, it's similar to a public place because it's not your home.
Okay, Emily, thank you. I think I understand what you mean. So yes, that's true. If we were comparing public places versus home, so according to Gamaliel, he says that it's easier to concentrate in public places because you have more distractions at home, right? And he gave an example of how maybe you're hungry if you're at home, and then you'll go to the kitchen, maybe you'll go, I don't know, to the living room, and the TV could be on. So you have more distractions at home. Okay, I get that. Although I would try to be a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more careful with the question, because the question isn't really, the two options are not really public places or home, right? They are public places or places with no people. So it doesn't necessarily have to be home, right? It could be any other place where you have no people there. So maybe in a park, or maybe in an empty cafe, who knows? So, but I think we can still use this. Now, what about the second option? What if we were to say that it's better to study in places where there are few or no people around? So, what could be one reason for studying there?
Teacher, to me, the places where there is a few people or no people is maybe that it's less how to say that it's less lousy, and there is less people to talk. I mean, for example, we have to imagine we are learning English, right, by the books. If there are more people, maybe they will concentrate, or they will say, hey, do you remember when I told you? And you will start talking to them, and you forget to study, or you don't focus 100% in what you are studying.
Okay, all right. Okay, I understand that too. I understand that point. So you're saying that actually when you go somewhere where you have no people there, then it's easier to concentrate because you think people are a distraction, right? Maybe because of the noise, or maybe because they can talk to you while you're studying and interrupt your studies. So I understand that point as well. Okay, guys, so I think it's almost the same argument, right? Both of them talk about concentrating better. When you talk about public spaces, then you mean that you don't have the distractions that you have at home. So maybe you don't have your family members there, you don't have a TV in there, you don't have your kitchen, you don't have food. So you don't have those distractions that you have at home, right? And when we are choosing places where there are no people around, then we are still on the same argument. We're still saying that you can concentrate better, but in this case, we're saying because there's no noise, right? And in this case, you prefer to study in places where there's no one, not because of the things that could distract you, but because of the people that could distract you. So if you think about it, both of them have the same argument, right? Concentrating better. So as you can see, it doesn't really matter which one you choose. You could choose one or you could choose the other. As long as you're able to explain it well and to explain it in a way that makes sense, then it's fine. So you could say, well, I prefer to study in public places because I'm not at home and I don't have things to distract myself, such as, I'm going to give examples. Or you can go with, I prefer to study in empty places because there's less noise and people won't distract me when I'm studying. So both of them are going to be exactly the same, right? You're using the same argument of concentrating. So the reason why we did this is just to show you that it doesn't really matter which option you choose. Anyways, you will always be able to think of a reason, okay? So please don't waste too much time deciding which one to go. Just go for the first one or go for the one that maybe calls your attention the most, okay? So obviously sometimes there are ones that seem easier than the others, so just go for them. But you don't have to overanalyze this. Please don't, okay? So what do you guys think? Should we go for public places or places with no people? Public places or places with no people?
Um, without people.
Okay, so let's go for that one. Then we already chose, but we were supposed to do this in like 3 seconds, right? So your decision should be quick. So we're going for places with no people. Now, when you're preparing during those 15 seconds, aside from choosing one of the sites, you should also be thinking of one reason why you feel that way, right? And that sometimes comes with a decision, right? If you're deciding something, it's because you have one reason behind that decision. So it's usually easy to come up with one reason, So in this case, our reason was you can concentrate better, you don't have any noise, and people won't talk to you, right? That was a reason, which is basically the same, right? Concentrating better. And that's it. That's what you guys need to do when you're preparing, because there's really no much time to do anything else. You don't have much time to think about another reason or an example or something. This is everything that you're probably going to be able to prepare during those 15 seconds. I suggest that you guys take notes. So take notes especially for your reason. Okay, that's the thing that you should be writing down. Is that okay so far? Do you have any questions as to what to do during those 15 seconds? No questions so far? Okay, guys. So then time's up and they will start recording your response. They will tell you something like, you may start speaking after the beep, and then you hear beep, and then you need to start speaking. Otherwise, you're gonna lose that time, right? They won't record your response again. So when the beep plays, you need to start speaking, and you will look at the clock on your screen, and you will start counting down. From 45, you will go down to 0. So 45, 44, 43. You will count down until it gets to 0. Okay, and your time's up. Do you have any questions so far? No questions? Okay, guys. So do you remember the sample responses we heard yesterday? For example, this one here. And I told you this is more than enough. This is a great sample response. This is what you guys have to do. And this is what we're gonna do. Remember that we had an introduction, which was one sentence. It was quick, it was short and concise and direct. Remember that then we had one reason, and then we have one example, right? That's what we're gonna do. An introduction, a reason, and an example. That's all you guys need. Now, how are we gonna do this? This is the template, but of course, remember you can always change the template. The words are there just as an example, right? You can change the words, no problem. So first of all, in your introduction, which needs to be at most 7 or 8 seconds. So that means that the clock starts in 45. When it gets to 38 or to 37, then you should already be starting your first reason. You cannot go over 7 or 8 seconds for your introduction, okay? And in your introduction, what you have to do is answer the question. And I'm gonna ask you to please answer this question as directly as you can. You have here this phrase that says, I would definitely say that, okay? This is like a general phrase that you can always use, no matter what. However, my best tip, my best advice would be, instead of using this, it would be even better if you use the same verb that they use in the question, okay? So the question here, let's go back to our question. The question itself was, which kind of place do you prefer, right? That was the question. What verb are they using in the question?
Prefer?
Exactly, prefer. So in order to give your introduction, that is the first sentence in the first 7 or 8 seconds, try to use that same verb, but before the verb, try to add an adverb, okay, to sound stronger. So you're gonna answer this question saying something like this. Let's say, I definitely prefer, okay? And then you answer the question. So if they are using the verb prefer, try to keep the verb prefer in your response. If they are using the verb think, try to say think. If they are using the verb agree, try to say agree, okay? So in this case, since they're using the verb prefer, we're gonna keep that prefer. And before the verb prefer, we're gonna add an adverb. In this case, we're adding the word definitely, but if you want, you can say certainly, totally, absolutely, doesn't matter, right? Definitely, I think is the most common one. So you're gonna say, I definitely prefer, and then I would suggest that you copy and paste. Okay, so here you have to copy and paste the option that you chose. So in this case, we chose option 2, right? That says others prefer to study in places where there are few or no people around. So I really recommend that you guys copy and paste that. So you're gonna say, I definitely prefer to study in places with no people around, right? Or where there are no people around. I am trying to summarize it a little bit, but if you want, you can say the whole thing, right? I definitely prefer to study in places where there are few or no people around. That was still less than 8 seconds, okay? Now remember that you will have this question on your screen. It won't go anywhere. It will be on your screen while you're speaking. So you have the advantage of being able to see the question while you're speaking, and you can actually read, right? So you don't have to do anything, but read the verb, use that verb, read the option, and read that phrase, right? I definitely prefer to study in places where there are few or no people around. That is your introduction, okay? Use the same verb and copy and paste the option. Is that okay so far? Do you guys have any questions about the introduction? Any questions? Remember, this is the introduction. It should be 7 to 8 seconds. Now, if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to use the same verb, you can use this and say, I definitely say that. And it's not a problem, right? It's useful for every question that they can give. Is that okay so far? Do you guys have any questions? Nope. All right, so after you've said your introduction, you look at the clock, it should be around 38 to 37 seconds left. And then you need to start giving your reason.
Teacher, I'm sorry. I brought it down on the talking chat. My first reason. I hope you like it.
Okay, ready?
Can I read?
Yes, of course, go ahead.
Okay. I definitely prefer to study in places where a few people or not people around, due to there are less distractions and there is less people to talk to each other. And if we are alone or surrounded by few people, we can be in a place less lousy.
Okay, good. Okay, that's fine. So I definitely, okay. Remember though that you won't have enough time to write the whole answer, right? So you need to improvise this. And careful with the verb, with the adjective lousy. I don't think that it would be used in this context. Okay, thanks, Rainy, that's good. So, okay, guys, any questions before we continue? We were saying the introduction should be 7 to 8 seconds. And when you start in 38, then you should go with your first reason, right? Okay. Now, as for the first reason goes, so for example, if we look at what Rennie wrote in the chat, his reason is due to the fact that there are less distractions and there is less people to talk to each other. And if we are alone or surrounded by few people, we can be in a more quiet place, maybe, right? So that is his reason. So
That's okay.
okay, it's a good reason, right? It's the one that we thought about. But I would suggest that you guys keep it short. So it should be even shorter than that. His reason here may be a little bit too long. The best tip I can give you is try to keep your reason in one sentence. Okay, it could be if you want a compound sentence, but it doesn't have to be longer than one sentence. So for example, you could say, I definitely prefer to study in places where there are no people around, since you have less distractions. You can keep it there, and that's fine. That's the end of your reason, okay? It's one clause, right? It's not even one sentence.
It's shorter.
It's shorter. If you want,
Yeah.
you can go a little bit longer and say, since as it's a quiet place, you don't have anyone to talk to, and you have less distractions, right? So I'm making it a little bit longer, but honestly, you don't need anything else but something short, something really short, okay? You don't have to spend a lot of time explaining your reason. Is that okay so far? Remember that the word since, what does it mean?
Because
Exactly. The word since is just a synonym of the word because. And we're trying to be a bit more academic, a little bit more formal, and trying to show vocabulary too. So that's why we're using since instead of because, right? But it's fine if you say because too. As long as you're not repeating it over and over again, that's okay.
teacher, I'm sorry, I have a question for you. We have to suppose we have more reason, right? And we start saying because a lot of times. It looks like your English is really basic, I think.
Yes, that's true. And not necessarily because it's basic. Sometimes it's just we use it as a filler word sometimes, but it does affect your fluency, and it doesn't sound so formal as it should. So it's better if you use because, you can use it once or twice, but yes, don't try not to repeat the word over again. And remember that you only need one reason, right? So there's no reason why you should be using because too much. Okay. So yes, we're saying since you need to give your first reason, right? In this case, since you can concentrate better as there are less distractions. And that's it, that's your reason. Now, as soon as you can, you should be starting giving your example. So you were 38 here. If you're like 30 to 25 seconds left, that means that you spent like 8 to 13 seconds in the reason, that's fine. And then you start your example. Now, this is the most important part of your response, because your example is the way that you support your answer. Your example is the way that you explain your reason without explaining it, right? You're explaining it with illustration. You're illustrating this so that the person can imagine what you're saying. So it's the best way to explain your reason. It's always going to be to give an example. Instead of just trying to explain it on your own, always use something to explain it. Be an example. There are other options as well, but the best way is to give an example. Okay? Now, about this example, there are 3 things that you guys can do in here, or 2 things. One of them is talk about a personal experience in the past, and it's gonna be a single experience, one event, one specific event. Okay? So when I say personal experience, I don't mean talk about yourself in general. You could say, for example, you could say, for instance, every time I have to do a project, I always study at home since I don't have distractions. I live alone and nobody is there to talk to me, right? So that is personal. You are talking about yourself. But would you say that that is specific? No, right? It's not. When you say every time that I have to study, I study alone at home since nobody's there and I don't get distracted. So you're not talking about specific events. You're not being specific and you're not giving details. You're just talking about it in general. You're talking about routines every time, whenever. So not only does it have to be personal and you have to talk about yourself, but you also need to make sure that you give specific details because that's what they really want. So it's entirely different if instead of saying that, I say, for instance, last week I needed to complete, or I had my final exam for my biology class, and I went to the library since they were doing renovations at home. As there were so many people and so many other students studying too for the final exams, I got distracted really easily talking to them, and I felt that I didn't do my best. I didn't get the grade that I wanted to in my final exam, right? So that is a way more specific than my previous example. I'm not talking about it in general, like every time I do it at home, but I'm talking about a single specific event. So there was this specific time when I had this exam and I studied in this place and this is what happened, right? And this taught me that it's always better to study in quiet places. So that is my best advice. Try to always talk about personal experiences and try to make sure that you're giving specific details, right? So you can mention what class it was, what grade you got, whether you failed the test or not, when this happened, what time it was. You can say maybe it was late at night and everybody was studying for the same exams, and I don't know, right? So you can even give those details if you want. Is that okay so far? Do you guys understand how to give this first type of example?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. Now the second type of example is a little bit more, it's less specific, and it isn't personal. So in the second type, you're gonna talk about things in general, but you're still gonna try to be as specific as you can. But in this case, you're gonna present hypothetical situations. So the same example that I did, I can try to do it and in a way that applies for everyone, right? So I could say, for instance, if you are a student and your final exams are coming, you'll probably need a lot of study. If you go to the library, you'll find that there are hundreds of people studying for the same exams, and there could be some noise because some students are working on group projects. Maybe you meet friends there and they're gonna approach you and talk to you, and you'll get distracted. Therefore, it is better to go and study at home where you probably only have a roommate or something like that. So you're talking about it in the second person, right? You're using the second person. So if you had to do this, then this is what you will do. And you're imagining something, right? You're like creating a situation all of nowhere. So you're saying, if you had to study for an exam, or if you have to complete a project or complete an assignment. So you're making it up, right? And you're talking about it in the second person. And that is like another way that you can approach the examples. I recommend that if you feel you're confident enough with using the past tense, then you go with the first example. So if you're okay with using the simple past tense, then go with the first type of example. And if you tend to make mistakes conjugating the verbs in the past, then try to go with the second one, because this doesn't require you to use other tenses than the present one, right?
That's okay.
Do you guys have any questions there about the exam?
Everything is understood.
Okay, Ren, thanks. And that's it. That's everything you need. Remember that this is everything that the sample response we heard had. So you really don't need anything else. But remember that one of the criteria they used to evaluate your responses was the way that you manage your time too, right? So first thing that you need to try to avoid doing is running out of time. I know that it may sound complicated, but you need to practice multitasking here, because you're gonna have to speak, think, and measure your time at the same time. So while you're speaking, you need to be constantly looking at the clock and seeing how much time you have left. If you see that you have only 10 seconds, then hurry up, right? And start finishing the idea that you're giving. You need to, the 45 seconds need to end when you finish an idea, okay? It cannot end before you're done, when you're starting an idea, when you're in the middle of your example. That cannot happen. And that only takes practice. You know, it's all a matter of practice. Now, that is the first thing, right? Make sure that you don't run out of time, that your ideas are complete by the end of the 45 seconds. And the second thing, it's basically the same, but not only do you have to be careful not to run out of time, but you also have to be careful not to have so much extra time. So if you have more than 3 seconds left, then you need to do something. If you have 4 seconds or 5 seconds, then you have to go with a short conclusion, okay? And your conclusion can be something short, right? Depending on the time you have. If you have 4 or 5 seconds, just go with something like, this is the main reason why I feel this way, right? That would be around 3 seconds long. If you have like 5, maybe you can say, so this is the main reason why I would totally prefer studying in a quiet place. You're making it longer, right? Now, if you have more time than that, if you have 8 seconds, if you have 9, 10, 13, 20 seconds, you need to add a second reason. You need to think fast and think about another thing to say so that you fill out that time. So you need to think about another reason, and maybe, I don't know, you could say, furthermore, when you study in quiet places, I don't know, maybe you could say, you can be more comfortable. You can wear the clothes that you're wearing at home, right? Maybe you can say that as a second reason, just a way to end the answer. But that's it. So if you have 5 seconds, then you can go with a conclusion. And if you have like 10 or more seconds, then you can go with a second reason. Okay?
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Do you have any questions so far?
Teacher, sorry, I have a question. Could you translate in Spanish what it means, furthermore?
Furthermore means además.
Ah, okay. Okay. Voy a apuntarlo.
Yes. Any other question then?
See, yes, I have a question, teacher. Would you mind if you share us the APPs or the information or links for today?
Yes, I will by the end of today's class. Don't worry.
Okay. If it's necessary to give you my email address, you have to tell us.
Okay, no problem. I don't need your address. I'll just share the link here for
Okay,
Zoom chat.
that's okay.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Okay, guys. So would anyone like to try? Now that we've already basically done it part by part, does anyone want to try? Putting everything together, trying to see maybe how you're managing your time with the clock. Any volunteers?
Teacher, can I be the first one?
Yes, great, Rainy, thanks. Okay,
Okay.
so please, you can start speaking now.
I would definitely say that it's better when there is no people or less people, since I always been recommended by my professors that is better. For instance, when I want to study for some projects or I want to study for some tests, I did my projects alone. I always study by myself in my room because there is no stress, there is no lousy places, and there is even no people to talk to each other. So I have to concentrate more by myself. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, Rainy, thanks. Okay. So great, you have your introduction. I definitely say that it's better to study in a place where there are no people around. Great. You gave your reason. Now, as far as your reason goes, you said, since I've always been recommended by my professors to study alone, right? Or I've always been told that it's better to study in a quiet place. So try to be careful with that. Don't use your reason like you're saying that this is better, but don't tell me that it's better because someone else said it's better, right?
Okay.
You need to try to give your own reason. So instead of referring to somebody else and somebody else's opinion about this, you only talk about yourself and tell me why you think that it's better.
Okay.
I think it's better because you don't have distractions, right?
Okay.
Then your example was good too, but you were talking about it, maybe you were not being so specific, right? It's okay if you want to give a general example and talk about routines the way you did, right? So I always study at home because I don't have distractions, but try to give details. So for example, if you're saying that you have distractions when you're not at home, tell me what distractions you have, right? So things like that. Try to give more details in your example. Okay? Or if you can, try to go with a more specific event rather than routines. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, and at the end of your response, if you have more time, go with a conclusion instead of saying, and that's it, thank you, right? Instead of saying that, go with a conclusion. You tell me, and this is why I feel this way. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, guys. So how do you feel now? Do you have any questions then? Before we practice a little bit. No questions?
No question.
Okay. I'm gonna send you. Okay, guys, we'll do that later. So we'll do a couple of examples more to practice. You guys will try it. Let's see, let's take a look at some examples. Okay, so for example, let's take a look at this. It says, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? To protect the health of young children, advertisements for candy and junk food should not be shown on television. Use specific reasons and details in your response. So, to protect the health of young children, advertisements for candy and junk food should not be shown on TV. I will give you guys 15 seconds to prepare your response. Think of your decision, of your opinion, and think of one reason why you think that way. Okay. So maybe, Sergio, do you mind going now? Are you there, Sergio? Then maybe Gamaliel?
Yes. Well, I definitely agree with the protection of the young children from the junk food and candy because the children need a good food for a correct develop of their brains, their bones, and generally of their health.
Okay, Gamaliel,
It's
Teacher, I also have an opinion, and I want to know if I can give you my opinion.
yes, Gamaliel, yes, Renny, sorry, in a few seconds, please. Okay, so Gamaliel, your response was good. It was your first try, and it was honestly not bad. You had your introduction, but I think that you were maybe taking too long, right? You need to try to speak a little bit faster in this case, and remember that you can always read what you have in the question. So for your introduction, you guys should never be thinking. You don't even need to think about your introduction because you can always read. So you just say, one way to do it, in this case, as you can see, it's a little bit long, right? It would be longer to say, I agree that to protect the health of young children, advertisements for candy and junk food should not be shown on television. You have two options. You can, one, summarize this and say, yes, I agree that this type of advertisements shouldn't be shown. So I'm summarizing it. Or second, you can just say, I definitely agree with this statement and not mention the statement, right? If it's too long and you feel that it's too tough to summarize, then just say, yeah, I definitely agree with this statement. And if you can, then try to summarize it, right? So I agree that these advertisements shouldn't be shown on TV. Though you have those two options, but you don't have to spend too much time there. Second, I really like your reason. You know, they need to eat healthy food in order to have a correct development of their brain and so forth. But remember that you always can go for something simpler than that. It was a little bit complicated, and this question is a bit complicated, but you can try to keep it simple. So use simple words, it's fine. As long as you're expressing yourself well, then it's okay. So you could say, for example, since children today are eating unhealthy food, which is creating health problems for them, right? So that's pretty short, pretty nice. And I know that it's super simple, but it's fine because your sentence is well structured. And remember that in this speaking task specifically, content doesn't matter too much. In question number 1, this is your chance to just show that you can speak. That is why it's called independent, because this is mostly about the way you speak rather than what you say, right? It's more about how you say than what you say. The other ones, the integrated ones, the ones that will depend on something else, you have to be more careful there about the content. But here, keep it simple as long as you have good sentences. And don't forget your example, right? If you summarized it a little bit more, you would have had time for your example. Is that okay, Gamalia? Do you have any questions? Yes?
Yes, okay.
Okay, guys.
I don't have a question.
Gamalia, thanks. Now you can go already if you want. I'm gonna put the clock here.
That's okay. Disagree with the following sentence because advertisements are for people taking decisions. If you want to take, you take it. If you don't want it, you don't take it. And children, it depends of their parents. So it's the decision and the responsibility of parents to choose if they watch television or if they make tips to the children. Hey, this advertisement on television should be followed by you. You know why? Because a lot of candies are bad for health. But if you want to eat 1 or 2, no problem, because no problem for children people. They are always healthy, or they are always health.
Okay, Ray. Good. So I like the fact that you sounded really strong about what you were saying. You had a strong opinion about this. But I would try to summarize your reason a little bit more. Everything that you did in the whole response was explaining your reason, right? Your reason was clear in the beginning. Advertising is for people taking decision, and it's up to their parents how to educate their children, right? Leave it there. Don't explain it too much. You're trying to explain it too much, but you don't have enough time to give the details, which are important, right? So don't forget that. Try not to over-explain your reason. Try to keep it short and concise. And remember that you always need to have 3 layers because they say use specific reasons and details. So you had the reasons, but you were missing the details, right? Don't forget that. But it was good. So do you guys have any questions about the ones we did? Okay, let's try this other one. It says, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Parents should be involved in the process of helping their children to choose a career. Use specific examples and details to support your opinion. You will now have 15 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So maybe this time we can have Sergio or Wilder, one of you two guys. Who wants to go?
I will go.
Okay, go ahead.
I will definitely say that I don't agree with a statement that parents should involve in the process of helping the children to choose a career, since many professionals have to realize since they are kids and see what they want to do with their lives. For instance, when I chose my career, I didn't ask help to my parents. And actually, I'm happy with the career I chose. Furthermore, I believe people should follow their dreams. That is more important than being helped. Those are my reasons why I feel like this way.
Okay, Wilder. Great, perfect. That was really well done. So nice. I liked almost everything about your response. You had your introduction, it was clear. And even though you spent a little bit more time there, it was worth the wait because you were able to explain it better than if you just said I agree with that statement. One tip for your introduction. What I said, right? It's better to use always the verb they give you. So you did use it, you said I agree, but you also used the other one, right? You said I would say that I agree. So just use one of them. So instead of saying I would definitely say that I agree, tell me I definitely agree that parents should, or I definitely disagree, or I don't disagree that parents should be involved in the process of helping the child, right? So only that. Try not to use the two of them, only one. You can always be a little bit more specific in your example. It was good. You said, well, I didn't ask help from my parents and I'm happy with the career I chose. Maybe tell me what career you chose, right? Be a bit more specific. I need those details. But only that, you had more time. You went for a second reason, and you had your conclusion too. So it was really good. Those will be my only tips.
Teacher, can I give my opinion?
I'd rather, okay, Rennie, but after Sergio, please.
Okay. First Sergio, then me. Okay, no problem.
Okay, Sergio, you can go now.
Okay, I definitely disagree with these sentences. The way the parents get involved in the choice of their children's career. Since I consider that all children should have the freedom to choose the career they like best. For instance, I had opportunity to discover for myself the career that I like the most. And that is all.
It was going great. You had that extra time. What could have you done in that time? What do you think?
A short conclusion, maybe.
Yes, you could have gone with a short conclusion and finish your example, right? Because you said all children should have the opportunity to decide what they want to do. You gave your example. I had that opportunity, and maybe like a resolution for that, right? Remember that all examples should have, first of all, context. So tell me when, where this happened. So maybe before giving the example, tell me a little bit of when and where, right? You can tell me, so for example, or for instance, when I graduated from high school, I know that it's a little bit redundant, right? But it gives the setting for the example. So the first thing, context. So when I was 18 or when I was young, when I finished high school, or I had the opportunity to choose the career that I wanted to study, maybe give me the details, right? Don't forget. So this is what, right? Don't forget, give me details. So what career you chose, right? And then you need to have a short resolution. So what happened? Like what lesson did this example, this experience teach you? So tell me, and as the way that Builder did, right? So tell me, I am happy with the decision I made. Right now I'm working as, so give me the details, right? Maybe you studied journalism and now you're working as a reporter for a big news company. Maybe you can tell me the name of the company. Don't forget those details. And that would be the resolution of your example, right? First of all, the context. Everything goes with details, right? When and where, the events, what happened. I chose my own career, and the result, the resolution. And I'm happy. It was a good decision. It taught me that children or parents shouldn't be involved. Always with details. Okay. But honestly, that was going really great, Sergio. That extra time, don't get. Okay, guys. So Rainy, I don't know if we have enough time to go with you, but don't worry about it because either way, we have 2 more classes, and tomorrow and on Friday, everything we're gonna do is what we're doing right now. So we're just gonna practice. You guys are gonna practice, and I'll give you feedback. That's all we're gonna do. We're not gonna cover any more theory. We finished today with the theory. So don't worry, we're gonna, you guys are gonna have the chance to practice a lot during these next 2 days. Okay? Do you
Teacher,
guys
I'm
have
sorry,
any?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
For example, would you mind if I read question by question? I want to practice and I want to improve. Would you mind if I send you my answers, not oral, only writings? If you can give me a feedback, would you mind if I do that?
For this question, you mean?
No. I mean, for example, we have to suppose there are 13 questions, right? I choose 2 questions and I want to improve myself and I want to write it down, my opinion, and I give you by message the examples I want to read, and you are going to feedback. And I mean, I'm trying to say that. Do you agree if I send you one of my sentences?
But I don't get it. Where are you gonna get the questions?
For example, I noticed there are many questions there. For example, do you
Yes.
agree? And there are more questions.
So, do you
I
want me
have
to
to.
send you? Okay, so let me see if I get it. Do you want me to send you this presentation and you answer the questions that you have in here and send them to me like written and me give you feedback?
Yeah, like that.
Like honestly, I wouldn't mind, but I don't think that's a good idea. We're gonna work on these questions, but you don't have to write your answer. That's a terrible way to practice. When you write, because you won't be writing your answers, right? When you write, you have the chance to think and you're not improvising because you can erase things. So if you write, then you're gonna become used to doing that. And in your test, you won't be able to write down your answers. So it's never a good idea to write down your answers. Actually, it's even better when you practice without preparation time because the number one skill that you need here is improvising. You need to come up with reasons, with sentences, with examples as you go. So writing is not a good idea. And that's why tomorrow and Fridays, as I was saying, we are going to work on those questions and you guys are going to answer the way we're doing now. And I'll give you feedback, but on your spoken responses, okay? Not on your written responses because those are not, that's not the way that the correct way to practice is. Okay, remember that these are spoken responses. So if you write, then this it kind of loses the idea of the speaking section, you know. So we're gonna practice, but you have to answer these questions speaking, and I need to give you feedback not only on the content, because honestly, the content is not even the most important part here, but the way that you speak is. So we're gonna practice, and I'll hear you speak, and I'll give you feedback based on that.
Yeah, that's
Here-
okay.
Okay.
No biggie.
Any other questions before we go?
No questions.
Okay, guys. So please don't forget today's surveys. We actually have to complete 2 surveys today. I'm sending you the first one right now. And as we're filling out, I'll send you over.
Okay, I already respond this one.
Okay, guys, thank you. Now I'm sending the other one.
I completely placed by your technical methodology teaching because you explained good. Congrats for that.
Okay, Rainy, thank you. Thank you for the feedback.
You're the first Bolivian lady I met in my life.
Really? Well, I hope I'm giving you a good impression.
Yeah, I have a good impression.
Okay, Rainy, that's good to hear. Okay, guys, then thank you so much for joining today. Remember, I'll see you tomorrow and we'll just practice. So tomorrow we have our practice session.
That's okay.